Good morning, everybody. Today I want to discuss a common problem that I see on the Biesse edge banders. You get this alarm 036 and it's talking about the end trimmer not in position and the track will stop, things of that nature there. Today we're going to be dealing with the error 36 that you get a lot of times on the Biesse machines. And what I'm going to do is discuss kind of the way that the machine thinks and its protections, and then you'll see why we get this alarm and what we can do to remedy it. Okay, so in this system you have two switches. You have one that's up here and you have another one that's down below. So let me see if I can get that one down below that you can actually see it. Can you see that switch right there? And what that switch does is that detects that the trimmer has completed its cut. That is typically the one that's going to fire off the 036. This one up on top is what determines the trimmer is up and clear, so it makes sure that you're not going to rip the trimmer off. So as the board approaches, you want to make sure that tail trimmer is up. The other one, which gives us our alarm, is the completion of the cut. All right, so in these you have your different pressure settings that's in this, and what we have is the main system. We have your tail trimmer. You notice the tail trimmer because your saw blade is here and you can see as the board is passing. Then you have the front trimmer with 2 chevrons, which means it's high speed. Front trimmer, 1 chevron, slow speed. And these are your recommended settings that vary over the life of the machine because they're pneumatics and the pneumatics will constantly change. Okay, so that's one thing that happens, and usually this one is going to be on demand. So you see right now it's depleted, but as soon as the trimmer is commanded to drop, that will pressurize. If that pressure is too low, when it goes to fall and you're running at high speeds, you don't have enough air being sent to it and it doesn't want to follow. Okay, so this has to be seen while it's running, or we can turn it on and I can take a look at it up there in a little while and show you on the debug how to force it. Okay, something else that happens, and I'll show it as an example on this one, is that you see this little screw that's right here. Let's see if I got a better view of it. This screw here, let me turn the light on. There, see that screw? Right there. This is a damper. So inside these cylinders, there's dampers inside, so as it finishes the end of its stroke, it pneumatically slows down and keeps it from mechanically breaking itself. Those over time have a tendency to get rubber broken down inside of it, and they want to get clogged up. So that's a second thing it can be, and it's the same on this one. That's a generic component. It's not on every single air cylinder, but most manufacturers offer something similar to that. Okay. Another thing that it can be is that the exhaust, the quick exhausts, like this one right here, this is a little shuttle valve. So as this is commanded to come up, this shuttle valve will switch states and exhaust through here. So you've got one of those that's on your lower one. That's here. So what we could have is a pneumatic restriction again. As it's falling, it can't get there. Now, I have already taken a look at this one on this machine, so I know this is good. But the last thing it can be is that you could have a mechanical restriction, so as that trimmer is trying to fall, it physically is being bound up. And there's multiple reasons why you could have those. It could be that you need to lubricate the system because there is bearings here that need to be greased. And typically when you have a mechanical restriction, you're going to see it when it's coming up because the cylinder, and see if I can show you on this one, as the cylinder comes up, it wants to restrict the movement back in here on your shaft. This shaft, I really can't get a good view of it. I apologize. But nonetheless, as it goes up, the alignment, the physical alignment as it goes up, can get in a bind, and it doesn't want to get there. Okay, so what we're going to do immediately is we are going to track the mechanics and the pneumatics. And watch this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the overall station, note where it was at. So right now it's at 5 bars. I'm going to deplete that. When it does, you'll see that trimmer will fall. And see how nice and easy that fell. There was no slow down and then cushion out. So if it got down an inch or so from the end and then got slow and kind of settled, then that would be this screw that we discussed. And what you'd want to do is turn it closed, open it back up, count your turns, open it back up to the same place. Okay? Then it's just like the old needle jets on the car is on our old carburetors. You always want to count your turns closed so you know where you're at, then open it to the same spot. Test it again. If that doesn't work, crack it open a measured amount, test it again. But what happens inside the pneumatics, the O-rings and stuff will break down, and they get up inside those needle ports, and they'll close the needle ports off. Same thing with your shuttle valves and the flow valves here. Once we've done that, this is kind of hard to do one-handed, but what you're going to do is you're going to hold this up, just let it fall. See how that fell nice, and when it got to the end of stroke, it banged. Okay, now we don't want to run it that way, but for our testing and our diagnostics, it tells me I don't have an air problem, at least in the exhaust. I don't have a mechanical restriction, and I don't have a lubrication issue. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it back up so that the trimmer is up just a little bit. No, I'm not at the correct setting yet, but what I wanted to do at this point was go over to the debug screen. On the debug screen, you have this one right here, says TT1E02, and its description is rear trimmer, or excuse me, rear unit up. What that is the command that's being given from this switch back to the computer. Okay, I've also got another one here. It says E01. Currently, you'll see that is on, and that is the rear top unit. So 01 is here, 02 is here. And what we can do is we can watch this, and what we'll do is go over to this. You'll just have to trust me that this is what I am doing. See if I can do this one-handed. I'm depleting the air off the cylinder right now. As it fell off, you've seen the top one went white, so it went low, and now the bottom one is on. Okay, see if I can get that where you can see it. See where the TT02 is on. Now the TT is the Biesse code for this grouping. And so now what I'm going to do is, you've seen that changed its state back probably. I think you've seen it. Changes went back. All right, now I'm going to reset my pressures to where I wanted them to be. At this point, what we want to do is we want to test the board. It is entirely possible, let me get this turned around here. It is entirely possible we need to go in and make an adjustment to the parameters. That is 100% possible. You want to go through and do all your mechanical, all your pneumatics, all your electrical diagnostics before you change the parameters, because rarely are a parameter going to be the correct fix immediately. Usually there's something else underlying that happens before we just go in and change a parameter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it here for a moment. I'm going to test a couple pieces. I'm going to play with our air pressure settings, because I need to know what this value is before I go in and change anything. And then from there, we will run it at high speed, because that's the problem on this machine. When we run at 15 meters a minute, we're fine, but when we run at 18 meters a minute, it fires this alarm off, and it fires it pretty regularly. Okay, so I'm going to do those diagnostics real quick, and then we'll come back. All right, so I went through and checked a few things in it, and what I did was I logged into my password. It allows me to be able to force the machine, and what I want to do is I want to verify this pressure setting. It should be running between 0.8 and 1.2 bars over here. So there's a few ways we can do it. We can actually do it while the machine is running, or we can go out to the diagnostics on your debug, go up here, these are your different cards, find the one, like I was telling you before, says anything that starts with the letter T has to do with that stations. Okay? So on here you'll see one that says rear unit down. Okay, right now I got it highlighted because on these screens here you'll see underneath the force it has an equal, a minus, and a plus, and everything should be an equal when the machine has control. So if you change anything, then you want to make sure it's back in equal when you're done, because depending on the version of software and who makes the machine, it should reset everything back to machine control, but I wouldn't want to bet the cost of that station on the software engineers doing their job right. Because in all fairness, these machines last for decades, so I can't say 100% that it was built in that way. So we always want to make sure we undo what we've done. You'll see right now everything is white over here, but if I hit this and I move it to plus, you'll see that now the output has gone high and that this has turned yellow. And let me put it back on equal. You see it went out. If I wanted to put it at minus, which means I'm commanding it to be off, the command is off. The rear unit now shows that it's been touched. The reason that we have the equals, the minus, and the plus generically across everybody's machines is because sometimes an output is on and we need to force it off, and that allows us to do it. Okay, so you'll see that the end trimmer is up right now. See us here? Our end trimmer is up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in plus and I'm going to force it to go down. The trimmer has now fell. Okay, if you heard, I don't know how well it came across on the camera, but there was a thud when it went down. That gets back into where we're discussing the pneumatics and the mechanics. So I'm comfortable that those two situations are okay. But you'll see here now my pressure setting is at 2 bars, which is way too high. So what this pressure is this is the pressure that's applied to the system as it's chasing the board. So this is one of those things I tell you that people get in and they touch when they don't know what they're touching. So I'm going to generically set this about 1 bar, somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to, at this point, start it up and actually run it, because I do suspect that we've got a parameter problem. And I'm not going to cover with you how to change the parameters, because if you don't understand what you're doing with the parameters, you can really screw the machine up. So if you think that you've got a parameter problem, the best thing to do is reach out to either Biesse, which would be ideal, although sometimes it takes them a while to get back to you. Reach out to Biesse, explain to them what's going on, tell them everything you've done, and it doesn't matter if it's Biesse, SCM, Homag, Brandt, any of those guys. Explain to them what you've done and why you think that you need to get into parameters, because a lot of times, like I said, people immediately jump to the parameters and they start screwing stuff up, not aware that they're their own worst enemy. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back in machine control, and I'm going to run some parts on this at high speed and watch and see how this is performing. Okay, so I hope that helps you work your way through these bugs and gets rid of this 036 error. Usually, like I said, it's pneumatic. Sometimes it's mechanical. A lot of times it's just lubrication. Get in there, grease your machine, guys. It's just like anything else. It has to be lubricated. All right, so hope that helps you out. As always, wear your PPE. Be safe out there, and let's go make a million.